NFR Extra follows all your favorite cowboys, interviews legends of rodeo, and talks to the best of country music. Follow Nevada Caldwell, Ryland Bentley, and Steve Godert every week as they delve deep into the stories behind the road to gold in Vegas at the National Finals Rodeo. It's revealing, comedic, and sometimes emotional. Find it on Spotify or anywhere you listen to podcasts. NFR Extra. All dirt, all rodeo, all year.
NFR Extra, episode 67. We're joined by the multi-talented Pam Minick. Brylan, what does this episode entail?
There is not one word to tell us what this episode entails. We walk down a little bit of memory lane, some history of Las Vegas, which is so fun. Then we talk about rodeo. You talk about dancing a little bit, food. I think I hit most of it.
You know, doing the research on her, a couple of things. She's won many awards. The thing that stuck out to me, and I know, you know, we talk to a lot of people who have been in like a Hall of Fame, maybe 2 Hall of Fames. She's been in 5 Hall of Fames, and there could be more, I'm sure, that they're out there that aren't being listed online or something like that. But 5 Hall of Fames, right? When we talk about just being part of the Texas Hall of Fame, some other Hall of Fame, et cetera, et cetera. It just adds to the fun that we had with her. Vegas. Can't forget about Billy Bob's and what she's attached to and what her and her husband have done there. But I think how they handle the pandemic, you know, just let all the listeners know that typically people we've talked to, you've heard, they've dealt with the pandemic a little differently in our past guests where things really didn't impact them all that much. It definitely impacted Billy Bob's, and you'll find out a lot more about that with this conversation.
And then the way they just reacted to it, keeping that, you know, group together and whole, it's nice to see that in our world today.
And obviously, you got to listen to hear who they're bringing and who they're possibly bringing and all the other things that they got going on at Billy Bob's during the NFR in Arlington.
It will be a great time in the stockyards. We'll be right across the street. I can't wait.
Enjoy this episode with the Atomic Blonde, Pam Minick. But up next, Ryland Bentley's Rodeo News of the Week.
This is Bryland's Bull, the Rodeo News of the Week.
The date is set and the Cowboys and Cowgirls will be in the arena. The 2020 Wrangler National Finals Rodeo participants will be introduced to the world and receive their back numbers on December 1 at the NFR Welcome Reception in the home of the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. And a big congratulations to our 2020 award nominees. Ram World Standing Leaders are all-around Stetson Wright, bareback rider Tim O'Connell, steer wrestling Matt Reeves, team roping header Luke Brown, team roping heeler Joseph Harrison, saddle bronc rider Wyatt Casper, tight-on roper Shad Mayfield, bull rider Sage Kimsey.
Cowboy Christmas. The Wrangler NFR's official gift show is coming to the Fort Worth Convention Center December 3rd through 12th. Don't miss the biggest and best Western gift show in the world. You'll find Western apparel, art, furniture, jewelry, and more. There's also a lineup of live events featuring country music stars and NFR contestants, autograph sessions, giveaways galore, and admission is free. Get more at nfrexperience.com. Cowboy Christmas. We're all in Texas, and it's all here.
Hi, this is George Taylor, CEO of the PRCA, and you're listening to NFR Extra.
Atomic Blonde is how her Las Vegas birth announcements read. Pam Minick is a former Miss Rodeo America and 1982 Women's World Champion Breakaway Calf Roper. Her accomplishments include actress, movie stunt person, businesswoman, and sports commentator. Pam's spirit and dedication make her a true ambassador of rodeo. Pam Minick, welcome to NFR Extra.
Thanks for having me. Excited to tell you a little bit about what's going on here.
First of all, let's go where it all started. Clearly, the NFR this year is not in Las Vegas, but you're from Vegas. I understand there's a tab I've read about you, Atomic Blonde. Can you elaborate on what the Atomic Blonde is and coming from Vegas is all about?
Okay, well, I was born in Las Vegas, and both of my parents at the time worked at the Nevada test site. And so my mom thought, oh, it would be cute if her birth announcement said Atomic Blonde. So, luckily, I ended up in a career and with a personality that is a little bit electric, because if I was, some mamby-pamby girl, Atomic Blonde would have not really fit me later in life, but it still kind of sticks a little.
You're part of a Vegas that a lot of people talk about. Like, it's just this Vegas that seems to be kind of frozen in time, and it was a very special time in Vegas. What was it like growing up there? And from what I understand, there wasn't too much rodeo going on in your family. Is this correct? Or horse world? I mean, is this... My
parents, till the time they passed away, never even rode a horse. But there was, so how all the hotels are themed now, but at the time they weren't really themed. I mean, unless you consider Stardust a theme, and the Silver Slipper, which had a big silver slipper on it. The crazy thing is, I see that neon graveyard, and I remember when all those neons were new. Not saying that I'm old, but so there was going to be this new casino that was going to be going in, and it was going to be called Vegas World, and it was going to have a Western theme. So there was a hitch of horses, Palomino quarter horses, that were pulling this wagon up and down the strip, which at the time was not 6 lanes, as you can imagine. And the hotel never got off the ground, but it was going to be a themed hotel, a Western theme. So my mother, who was very gregarious, and most of my outgoing personality came from her. My mother had made friends with the people, and we had always begged for a horse. And we lived out there right off Sunset, just south of the airport, which was McCarran Field flying in from the Las Vegas Boulevard side at the time. And those of you that know Vegas know how cool that entrance to McCarran Field is. And so she had made friends with these people. And when they were leaving to go back to Missouri and take this hitch of horses back, she bought those 2 horses for us. I was 9 and my sister was 7. So that would have been in the 1960s for $300 a piece. And I joined the local 4-H club, the Brush Popper 4-H club. Shout out to them if they're still in business. And that's where it began. I mean, we rode bareback for the first 6 months because we didn't even have a saddle. So when I say we were green, we were the type of people that were like, yeah, I'm going to get a young horse, and we're going to learn together. But thankfully we did. And it began there. And there's an arena over by Sunrise Mountain and there's a riding group there called Sunrise Riders. And they had these gymkhanas and junior rodeos every weekend. And some of my friends at school that had horses, their parents would come pick me and my horse up and take us there, until later we talked my stepdad into buying a truck and a trailer. So to say my beginnings in the horse industry were humble is an understatement.
Now, there's some Western lifestyle in Vegas, obviously, and we know this, and Bob Tallman, and we'll talk about this later, but not in Vegas, but he's Northern Nevada. Yeah. But were you aware of Mr. Binion and kind of his workings in the rodeo world back then?
Well, yes, because I went to school going to school with icons was something that we kind of took for granted at the time. Judy Garland lived right behind us. And so I went to school with Lorna Luft. Liza Minnelli was a few years older than I was, believe it or not. And then Brenda Binion, her younger sister Becky was just ahead of me in school. So, that's what we did on Friday and Saturday nights. If we weren't at a high school rodeo, we were cruising Fremont Street and going in Binion's and picking up the phone and making obscene pages on the phone, So that's what kids did for a good time back then. Talk about rodeo in Vegas. You were asking about that. We had a lot of junior rodeos, Little Britches rodeos. I don't think there was even amateur rodeos there. And when you competed in high school rodeos, you talk about fortitude. Las Vegas had 1 high school rodeo a year. Every other high school rodeo was either in Fallon, Winnemucca, Battle Mountain, Elko, Ely, Tonopah. So every weekend it was an 800-mile round trip for those kids that high school rodeoed if they lived in Vegas. But there were some great high school rodeo athletes in Vegas. Wes Adams, both of his kids have ended up going to the NFR. Wes passed away not too long ago, but he was the most recent owner of the Lazy E Arena prior to Gary McKinney purchasing it. But his kids, Logan and Randon Adams, both have gone to the NFR, but Wes was high school rodeoed with us.
So your life was on the 95 a lot back then, if you were heading up to rodeos a little bit, right?
Yeah, I don't even think it was I-95.
I definitely know what you're talking about when it comes to high school rodeo in Nevada. And don't ever be surprised when it snows on you in the middle of June or July in Ely, Nevada, because it will. And Eureka, right. State finals both times. Yep, a lot of fun. Yeah. Sunrise Arena, I can't even begin to explain. I feel like that was just a place in Vegas where every person, if you did any sort of gymkhana, any sort of rodeo, you've had to have been there once, and they're still putting on the gymkhanas and the small barrel races today.
Wow. There's actually a Facebook group dedicated to that. Yeah.
Yes. Switching gears a little though, not high school rodeo, we talk pro rodeo. NFR. NFR has a huge place in Las Vegas, obviously, the last 30 plus years. And what does NFR mean to you in Las Vegas?
Well, the neat thing about it is if I work at this NFR, it will be the fourth location that I've actually worked in broadcasting in. In Oklahoma City, after I was Miss Rodeo America, I did the national finals telecast in the old Coliseum in Oklahoma City, and then moved to the Myriad downtown Oklahoma City. And then, of course, in 85, when it moved out to Vegas, I got a chance to do the national finals broadcast there probably 7 or 8 years. And so if I work here, this will be the fourth location. But I think it'll be a temporary home in Texas, because to me, Las Vegas put the National Finals Rodeo in a sports league, thanks to the dedication of not only Mr. Binion but Mr. Gahn, because Michael really made sure that it stayed the course. And it was a time, those of you that know, when the people talk about Vegas being dead during December, every hotel used to remodel their showroom in December prior to the NFR moving there. And there's a lot of great conventions, I'm sure, that could come to town, but I don't think anybody comes to town with the enthusiasm and the expendable income and the stamina to stay 10 days and party like rodeo fans. And so I think it's been a perfect marriage, and truly the commitment of Las Vegas, along with the visitor dollars that they spend, have given rodeo athletes, an opportunity to make what I think they deserve now.
Absolutely. And now it's one of the top 15 weekends occupancy-wise in Las Vegas. It's a huge event for us.
You're not going to get an argument out of us about the importance of NFR in Las Vegas. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about Pam's rodeo beginnings in Vegas.
Do you need a dose of social, a dash of insider info? Then the National Finals Rodeo Social Network is set up just for you. Get updates, insight, unique content, and much more on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. You can find us at Las Vegas NFR. And be sure to use #WranglerNFR on your posts and tweets. There's something for all rodeo fans. This is the NFR. This is Vegas.
Hey everybody, this is Aaron Watson, and you're listening to NFR Extra.
We're back with former Miss Rodeo America, Pam Minick. Pam is a member of the National Cowgirl Museum and Hall of Fame in Fort Worth, Texas.
I want to scoot back to when I've got 2 little girls myself, and I've got a son. He's the middle one. I can say no to him super easy. But you talk about 2 little girls going to their mom and dad and wanting a horse. Oh, now you got to buy a truck and a trailer and all this. How did that lead into your parents? I guess what I'm asking is, it takes a tremendous amount of support from a family to compete for the Miss Rodeo America. So kind of walk us through on that side of it, to where, there had to have been maybe some of the big crocodile tears or just the big smiles, but leading into Miss Rodeo America and your victory there.
Well, I wasn't a pageant girl. I thought of myself as a cowgirl. And the way that I got into the Miss Rodeo America pageant is kind of crazy. I worked for a man named Dean Schindel, and if you know anything about rodeo in Las Vegas, you may have heard his name. He was a PRCA bulldogger, but he was a wealthy gentleman that loved bulldogging, and he loved cowboys, and he opened his home to cowboys every year. He lived right off of Sunset and between Pecos and right around Sunset and Pecos, let's say. And he had a great arena there, had super duper horses. James Caan hung out there all the time. Just a lot of people that liked rodeo would always hang out with him. And so they had the Miss Rodeo America pageant long before it was held with the NFR in Oklahoma City. It was held in Las Vegas, and I was actually crowned in Las Vegas. The pageant was held as a separate event. It wasn't held alongside a rodeo, and I don't know how long it had been held in Las Vegas, but quite some time. So one year after school, I rode horses there. I had three after school jobs, and you'll kind of know the connection of all of them. My first one was at the Hacienda Hotel, which is where the Mandalay Bay is now. Judy Bailey owned that. It's that rare and Palomino horse, if you've seen the neon graveyard. So I worked after school at the Hacienda Hotel, typing in the publicity department. Then I worked for Dean Schindel after school, riding horses. And that's where this whole Miss Rodeo America. And my other after school job was at Lamb and One, working for Darwin and Sheriff Lamb's company, which is a beverage company. So those were my 3 Vegas jobs. But so they had the Miss Rodeo America pageant horsemanship at Mr. Schindel's arena. And at that time, you had to tie goats in the pageant. I mean, in the part of the horsemanship. And there were these girls there that didn't know how to tie goats. And Brylan probably knows where I'm going because she's a cowgirl. And I can't imagine that any bona fide cowgirl wouldn't know how to tie a goat. And so I'm behind the barn showing these girls how to tie a goat. And I said to Mr. Schindel, after all these frou-frou girls left the arena, I said, how can they call themselves a cowgirl if they don't know how to tie a goat? So he said, if you think it's so easy, why don't you run for rodeo queen? So it was really kind of a dare. So that was in December of the previous year, which would have been, I don't even know, 72, maybe 71. So then in 72, in May, I ran for Miss Eldorado, which was our big rodeo there.
Days,
it was held down at Cashman Field at the time. So I ran for Miss Eldorado and I won. Then in September, I ran for Miss Rodeo Nevada, which was at the State Fair up in Reno, and I won that. And in November, 2 months later, I ran for Miss Rodeo America and I won. So I didn't have a whole lot of experience, and I could sew really, really good. So I made almost all of my outfits. And there was a lady named Judy Morio that had Universal Models. It was a modeling agency. And she felt so sorry for me after I won Miss Eldorado that she took me under her wing to make sure that I didn't make a fool of Las Vegas when I went to Reno. But so my pageant experience was very short and not that expensive because of simple people got simple ways.
So the Atomic Blonde blew up for the Miss Rodeo America deal and made it happen. That's awesome. So you had other people with the support. What was your parents' outlook on this thing? Did they just kind of scratch their head and figured out Pam's going to do what Pam wants to do, or what was their thoughts on it?
My mother told us from a very early age. I remember when I was 4 years old, I said, I can't do something. And she said, I never want to hear that word in my house again. In fact, when I do speeches in different places, that's the first slide that I put up, is that my mother said that won't be allowed in our house. So we just grew up with such a positive attitude. I mean, it wasn't about financial resources. It was about spiritual resources and just making us believe that anything we could do, we would.
With a little hard work, anything is possible, right? Mm-hmm. We talk about accomplishments, and you have a lot of them, but one of them I'd like to highlight is the Women's National Finals Rodeo, 11-time and a world champion calf roper. Mm-hmm. The breakaway roping is now going to the National Finals Rodeo there in Texas. Talk about a little bit about what this means to the women's industry.
Well, over on the wall there, I'll shine over there. My world champion buckle is on the wall there. So, I love breakaway roping. I still feel like I could be competitive if the other girls were on Valium or something, but because, at the time, most of them were averages. So you catch 2, you're going to place in the average deep, and it's just like tying goats. I can remember when we tied goats in 14 and roped calves in 3, and that just doesn't happen anymore. But I'm sure the same thing happens when Roy Cooper says, yeah, I remember when I was 10 in the calf roping, which doesn't happen anymore. So it's gotten really, really tough and competitive. And I'm so glad for those girls to get a spotlight shined on them. I'll tell you how happy I am about this. I'm putting on a ranch rodeo next week in the stockyards. And at the ranch rodeo, I put in breakaway roping. So every one of the ranches has to have a female on their team so they can be their breakaway roper. So I love seeing the spotlight shined on the girls, and I'm just so excited for them.
I love that. And ranch rodeos, I know, Envy, you've probably never watched one, but they are actually a whole lot more fun.
When we think about it being in Texas, can you elaborate, because you're attached to the media side, what does the exposure do for this there in Texas and what it means to a lot of the young ladies that are in Texas opposed to anywhere else in the country?
Well, I can't speak so much for the young ladies, but I will tell you for our area, and especially for the stockyards and for our business at Billy Bob's, it shines such a big light, and it would be a big spotlight in any year. But when you talk about this year of COVID, when our business was closed for 5 months, so to get, this really is Cowboy Christmas for us. We normally have Friday and Saturday night concerts. Now we've got 10 days of concerts. And so for our business, the NFR is a salvation. And I hope it's a salvation for rodeo as well, and for the sponsors, because, while I know that Las Vegas would have put it on and still could, but without fans, it's not the rodeo that they expect, and it's certainly not the rodeo that the sponsors expect. So I think that this has been just a perfect marriage of 2 communities, or actually 3 communities, that chose to work together for the betterment of the sport. Las Vegas saying, yes, let's do this and let's help you do this. Fort Worth and Arlington both saying, together we can make this work, because Fort Worth has got, kind of the atmosphere, and Arlington's got the facilities. So it's really a marriage of 3. There's 3 people in this bed. What can I say?
God bless Texas. Perfect time to take a break. Pam shares how she went from competing to broadcasting when we return.
The first National Finals Rodeo was held in 1959. Since that time, the greatest cowboys and cowgirls have graced rodeo's biggest stage in pursuit of a coveted gold buckle and the title of a world champion. We continue to honor the top 60 NFR contestants of all time. Born in Mesquite, Texas, Don Gay grew up in a rodeo family, the son of legendary stock contractor Neil Gay. He began riding steers at the age of 6 and had an association permit before finishing high school. Once he graduated, Gay left home with $400 and won more than $400 in his first rodeo in Illinois the next day. The rest is history. Gay, at 5'7" and just under 150 pounds, had the perfect build and mental approach for bull riding. He was a giant in the sport, winning 4 consecutive world champions from 1974 through 77, the PRCA season champion in 1978, and then followed with another 3 consecutive world championships in 1979 through 81. By 1984, Gay had 8 of those titles on his resume, the most ever, and 35 years later, Gay is still the king, the winningest bull rider ever. During his career, he qualified for the NFR 13 times, but one of the most memorable rides occurred in San Francisco in 1977 in the old Cowtown Palace Sports Arena. Gay rode the famous RSC bull Oscar to a stunning score of 97 points, the 3rd highest mark ride in history. Today, you can hear Gay providing commentary on television. He was inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame in 1979.
Want to experience more of the NFR? Then visit NFRexperience.com. And we invite you to subscribe to NFR Extra on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or wherever you're listening right now. If you like what you've been hearing on NFR Extra, we would love it if you gave us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe. NFR Extra, all dirt, all rodeo, all year.
Hi, I'm 8-time world champion bull rider Donnie Gay, and you're listening to NFR Extra.
Pam Minick is here on NFR Extra. Pam and her husband, Billy Minick, own Billy Bob's Texas, the world's largest honky-tonk in Fort Worth, Texas. It was opened in 1980. You pulled a Tony Romo. You went from athlete, competing, then you jumped to the broadcast side. How did you go from athlete to broadcast, doing what you've been doing now for quite a while now? Where did it start and kind of transition into the success that you've created?
If you know anything about Miss Rodeo America, you know that you spend a lot of time on camera talking about the sport of rodeo. And so that was 1973 was the year that I was Miss Rodeo America. And at the time there was, I don't actually remember any broadcasts that particular year, but in 1976, Wrigley's Big Red Gum decided that they were going to televise a rodeo. And they called and said, can you do the sideline reporting? And I said, sure. I had no idea that I should even say anything but that, because my mom didn't make our brains wired that way. And when I tell people that have gone to school for journalism or communications or anything else, and I tell them that my first broadcast was live on CBS, it comes with a little bit of shock. But the great thing is that the one thing that I think has made me decent as a reporter is the fact that, unlike today where I'm doing a lot of talking, is that I'm willing to take a step back and ask a question that I might know the answer to and allow the athlete to answer the question. And I try to pose the question to where they can't answer with yep or nope. But you have to, one of the things that I forget until Justin McBride reminded me the other day, Justin was telling a story about me being the first person that he had ever given an interview to, and he was scared to death. At the time, in 1970s and the 1980s, and even up to when the PBR began in 1993, 94, athletes just didn't get, rodeo athletes just didn't get interviewed. So, then later, fast forward 10 years later, 2004, they already know what their answer is going to be because they've been practicing it with a hairbrush in front of the mirror since they were 5 years old. But allowing them to speak. And so to do that, I just had to ask them a question they were passionate about. And because I've been an athlete and because I've done almost every event except for riding a bull, and my bronc riding has not been by choice, it's been by accident. But I know the fine points of a ride to really focus on to make them talk about it. Now there's so much television and the fans are a little more well-educated that sometimes digging in that deep is might be too much. But at the time, if you focus on the fourth jump of the ride when the guy's hips are shifted, they'll tell you about it. And those are the things that was my goal, was to make stars of them.
Yeah, you've got to be part of like this. How do we educate the viewer what they're seeing and kind of utilize the content, which is the contestants and this kind of conduit to doing that. That's cool, because if where you're at now and what's happened with the media business for rodeo has changed drastically, as for any of us can tell. Obviously, I brought up Mr. Metters earlier. Clearly, I know you have a relationship with him via this industry. And I've seen some pictures of you interviewing some pretty cool people like George Strait and things like that. Who's probably one of your favorites that you got to sit down and talk to, or still get to talk to?
Gosh, I mean, they're all, everybody's got a great story to tell. Some of them are not so much what I experienced, but what I was able to bring out of them. One of my most memorable interviews was right there at the MGM when Tuff Hedeman got hit in the face by Bodacious. And we're live at the time. TNN was covering the show. And the director says to me, go follow him to the locker room. And, if you've seen the pictures, you know that his face was rearranged. And I looked at him and I said, "Hey, buddy." And he said, "Tell my wife I'm okay." And that spoke to my heart so much. I think it wasn't just because I was a girl. I think it was because that when everybody else was so thinking that he might die from having his head smashed, he was worried more about whether his wife was freaking out about it. So that's one that'll always stick with me.
So we interviewed him during the 2019 NFR on the podcast, and somehow he's fun to talk to, right? Like at first we gave him,
he makes so much fun of himself. Yeah,
absolutely. It's all open, right? And we gave him like, hey, we're gonna be here for like 45 minutes. He was like, how long are we gonna be here? We're like this, that, and he's like, all right, well, I gotta go. Well, we ended up going 30 minutes past what we were gonna talk to. Well, anyways, he revisited that injury and he walked us through how conscious he was during that whole time. And to your point, going back on the gurney, everything, and just looking up on the replay or the video screen and just everything happening. And I was just like, wow, man, like I've seen the images, everyone's seen the video.
He did. He stopped before they put him in the ambulance to look back to see if Adriano rode his bull or not.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's a bull rider for you.
That's a spectacular sort of breed.
There's another fun story. So Adriano, when he first came to the U.S., one of the first places he rode bulls was at Billy Bob's. And he loves to tell this story because I happened to be up in the announcer stand at Billy Bob's, and there was a guy up there because it's also a VIP area. And at the time, you hadn't seen the Brazilian bull ropes, which to people that watch bull riding, they call them a backwards bull rope. So so this guy's up there trying to impress his girlfriend. He goes, that guy he's going to hit the ground so hard, he doesn't even know how to put his bull rope on right. And Adriano goes out there in pure Adriano fashion and just rides the dog off, the hair off this bull. And I've told Adriano that story, and he still tells it to people. When I first came to America, I go to Billy Bob's. So that's my impression.
It was all right. It was an all right impression. We talk a lot about Billy Bob's. We've made mention of that before, and I was not 100%.
My dog wants to look in on that.
I was like, "Do you got a bear in your window, ma'am?" Woo. Talk about Billy Bob's a little bit, and just as far as for those people that have no idea of what, if they've never been down to Fort Worth, have never been to Billy Bob's, and what your role in Billy Bob's is.
Well, my husband and I are part owners in Billy Bob's. The club opened in 1981, and it went bankrupt in 1988, and we bought it out of bankruptcy with 3 other partners. And so since 1989, we've been there. So Billy Bob's will celebrate its 40th anniversary in April 1st of 2021, and we will have been there 31 years. So yeah, and for 26 years I was the marketing director, and I'm still the vice president of marketing, but I'm not very active right now.
So how many times do you guys have concerts like that, like big name concerts or middle of week concerts, or what's the format of that deal?
We have big name concerts every Friday and Saturday night. So that's 104, minimum of 104 concerts a year. We have live bands Wednesday through Saturday night. And those are just like smaller bands. But to give you an example, George Strait was once our house band. Travis Tritt was once our house band. There's, a lot of people, the Judds used to be a house band for us. So there's a lot of people that kind of got their start on our front stage at Billy Bob's. I'd have to look on my phone to see who's coming this week. Next week is Randy Rogers and Wade Bowen, and together doing a Hold My Beer tour. We've got Robert Earl Keen is actually coming up. He might even have 2 dates. During the NFR, we've got Cody Johnson, at least 2 nights, maybe 3. We've got Justin Moore, the Bellamy Brothers, Travis Tritt, Stoney LaRue, and Wade Bowen. And Pat Green. Pat Green will be there 2 nights. So we've got 10 nights of concerts during NFR.
That was my next question. Who's playing during the NFR?
Sounds like Billy Bob's Texas will be the place to be after the NFR every night. Let's pause right there and continue talking about more entertainment and the impact of COVID-19 in the Fort Worth community.
Cowboy Christmas. The Wrangler NFR's official gift show is coming to the Fort Worth Convention Center December 3rd through 12th. Get more at NFRExperience.com. Cowboy Christmas. We're all in Texas, and it's all here.
Want to relive the best NFR moments from the last 35 years? We've got you covered at NFRExperience.com. Check out the NFR History tab at the newly redesigned website for a walk, or should we say a gallop, down memory lane. You'll find images, recaps, and videos from the greatest moments from the last 35 years in Las Vegas. From Ty Murray to Trevor Brazile, Louis Field to Casey, Charmaine James to Mary Berger, Fred Whitfield to Joe Beaver, and everything in between, you'll find it here. There's something for all rodeo fans. Check it out at the newly redesigned NFRExperience.com. This is NFR. This is Vegas.
An icon steeped in history. A place where cowboys would come to ride. And legends would be born on stage. The heartbeat of a city. Where the bulls are real. The dance floor breathes. And the neon glows. Where you're always greeted with a smile and a cold beer. Always growing, never standing still. These walls can talk. They would tell you an authentic story. Story of a dream that would one day turn into a reality. This is Billy Bob's Texas.
Howdy, I'm Bob Tallman, and this is NFR Extra.
We are here with Pam Minick. Pam served as Vice President of the WPRA, helping to bring about significant advances for women's rodeo. Part of our marketing for LVE with the NFR is our After Dark, and it's all about the live entertainment. And from the looks, the sounds, the tastes, it sounds like Billy Bob is NFR After Dark in Arlington, Fort Worth. What's going on for those 10 days. I think a lot of people are going to expect to have a lot of fun every night after the NFR.
I hope so. Our biggest challenge is we've still got COVID restrictions in place. We hold 6,000 people, but with COVID, we're only selling like 2,500 tickets right now. Every week we hope that it gets a little bit bigger, but like our Cody Johnson shows are already sold out. I wouldn't be surprised if by the time that NFR gets here, if maybe our Pat Green and Justin Moore shows will be sold out too. And that's unfortunate because then the people that come won't get to see that, but they'll get to come during the day. We open at 11 o'clock in the morning and we don't close for concert admission till 6 p.m. So if people just want to see what Billy Bob's is all about, come and do our lunchtime line dancing and things like that, they can still do that. But if you haven't been to Billy Bob's, imagine a giant Walmart with 40 bar stations and a bull riding arena. We're going to have watch parties in our bull riding arena because there's no use having bull riding when the NFR is in town. So we're going to put up a big screen in our bull riding arena and have a watch party.
Oh my God, that sounds like an amazing event.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like a handprint wall of some sort, right? Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So in 1989, when we came back to Billy Bob's, or when we came to Billy Bob's, when we purchased it, we started doing the handprints of the people that had come there. And so, unfortunately, we lost the people that came from 81 to 89, like George Strait and Reba McEntire and people like that had performed early in their career there. But we got people like Garth Brooks. The first time he came there was August 4th of 1989. And he sold 500 tickets at $5 a piece. And so his handprints from that day, August 4th, excuse me, not October, his handprints from that August date are still on the wall. Alan Jackson was there in February of 1990. He played on our front stage as an opening act, and he went out back and wrote the song Dallas backstage at Billy Bob's. And if you Google Alan Jackson, Billy Bob's, it says that he wrote that song in our bus parking lot at Billy Bob's. So that's, so there's some great stories, and they're all told in those handprints there. There's hundreds of handprints on display. And the ones that are most meaningful, at least to me, are the people that are no longer with us, like Johnny Cash and Waylon Jennings, and it seems like every time there's an icon in the music industry that passes away, the first thing the local media does is come there and say, hey, do you have their handprints? Speaking of which, little segue here, in Las Vegas during the NFR, they've always done that Pro Rodeo League of Women's event, which has been a lunch and fashion show. And it turns out to be about a 4-hour drunk fest of ladies having a great time and raising, nearly $100,000 every year for the Justin Cowboy Crisis Fund. Well, this year we wanted to be totally different than it's been in Las Vegas, because the Gons have been so generous to JCCF, the Crisis Fund and everything. So we're doing it at Billy Bob's on Thursday, December 10th, and it's going to be a tribute to Charlie Daniels.
Oh.
Because, Charlie was an original board member of the Justin Cowboy Crisis Fund. He always performed at the National Finals Rodeo. So our fundraiser for the Justin Cowboy Crisis Fund this year will be a tribute to Charlie Daniels. And we've got a guy that wrote a tribute song. We've got, right now I've got 6 fiddlers lined up, along with some pretty good entertainers that are already going to be at and around Billy Bob's. So it'll be a great lunch. So make sure that you guys have December 10th lunchtime with me. Yeah.
Charlie Daniels was something else for us. I mean, he's our opening and closing of this show is his song that he wrote for the NFR.
Wow.
So let's back into this real quick. Usually we've been starting off this with our interviews, but we wanted to dive right into your Vegas world and everything else. Clearly, this has been some absolutely bizarro times for everybody, and survival of the fittest, and how do you get around things and business-wise. What has Billy Bob's been doing during, let's go back to March to now? What have y'all been doing to keep the boat floating and being creative, and what have you had to do?
Well, we were closed for 5 months, which wasn't very creative, but we had no choice. If they say you can't open, you can't open. We had an opportunity to open in May, and we didn't, because we thought, if we wait a few weeks until we get this right, we just didn't want to be, a big spotlight is shined on us. So we didn't want to be the one that was perceived by those that are afraid of COVID, that we didn't want to be seen as the irresponsible kids on the block. So we waited, and we didn't open till mid-June, and we were open for 6 days when they closed all bars. So we kind of, did we miss an opportunity? You can't look back. One of the things that we did do, well, of course, we got 8 weeks of PPP money, which is great. And we were able to pay every single employee for those 2 months, including our bartenders and waitresses. And we actually prorated what their tips had been. So it was a blessing for them. But then, then that 8 weeks was over, and it was adios. But we redid all our bathrooms. We redid our kitchen. We tore the kitchen completely down to the studs and everything. So we used it, construction was essential. So they were able to do that. And then when we finally, we bled millions of dollars. We're $7 million behind budget. And for a small business, that's a lot of money, and they say, you never make it up, and we probably won't make all of it up, but as we talked about, the NFR will at least maybe give us 1 month of that, that we lost those 5 months because it wasn't planned. But we are lucky to be in an area, and we were lucky that our business has been really good over the years, and we're not over leveraged. There's a lot of places that I feel sorry for that are so dependent on their business as it is every single day. And we didn't have a big sack of money. And what we had, we sucked down pretty darn fast. But our team is so good. There are people that came to work even though they didn't have to, just to make sure that we were able to get the messaging out there. We did a lot of live virtual events. I don't know if you saw any of them. We did one for the FFA. We did several just to save musicians, and then for my birthday, I did a fundraiser. And I said to people, don't send me a present, just donate money. And I gave it to our bartenders and waitresses. So we did what we could do, and our heart goes out to those businesses that aren't going to survive. But thank the Lord, right now, we're not one of those.
Thank you for telling that story, because a lot of people don't know behind the scenes what's happening to the industry just across the country for a lot of folks that, provide a special, unique experience to their community and how much it's hitting them. I mean, clearly in Vegas, we know this, but that's...
Well, and I use Vegas as an example. Whenever people talk about how our entertainment business in Texas, and, we've got a big initiative called Save Our Stages. I think it's actually gone national now, but it started right here in Texas, where we're trying to get some type of help for the entertainment industry, because those people, and it's not just the entertainer, it's their bands, it's the guy that owns the buses that are parked. We've got a friend that's got 40 buses parked all over the United States because artists aren't touring. It's the stagehands, it's the guy that makes the merch. The trickle down effect is huge, and it's the same thing in Vegas. So whenever you feel sorry for yourself, you look at Las Vegas and you realize that about 80% of the jobs are entertainment and event related in Las Vegas, and it goes to choreographers and background singers and the guys that turn on and off the lights, the production crew. So, I have a great faith in God, and I just know that there is a plan. I just wish he didn't trust us quite so much right now.
Yeah. Right. Definitely don't want to end on like a super just sour COVID note. So I obviously, the good part is you're planning for December. You have a great lineup every night of the NFR. Sounds like a lot of activity, which is a breath of fresh air.
So we're kicking off the week with your friend, Mr. Bob Tallman, gets honored at Billy Bob's, the Pro Rodeo Legends Award. So that'll be Monday, November 30th. So write that down. Tickets are available for that. Bob Tallman is the legend this year. And then the next week, we have the Resist All Rookie of the Year luncheon. We'll be at Billy Bob's. So we've got a lot of stuff that'll be fun, daytime stuff.
I do have one question about you that you're talking about the ranch rodeo that you're putting on. So you've got one girl, mandatory girl on each team. Only participate in the breakaway roping, or does she have to participate in other events as well?
She also has to participate in the Maverick branding, and by choice they can participate in any of the events. Actually, the girl would probably be a better milker. No, I'm just teasing.
But seriously,
but seriously, Maverick branding and breakaway roping, and then anything else they want to participate in.
Pam, this was fantastic. I seriously appreciate you coming on. I mean,
my pleasure.
Yeah,
I'll take you down memory lane in Vegas again.
Yeah,
there's still actually some people that are still alive that I hung with. Awesome. Don't let this fool you.
I know.
Look forward to seeing you at Billy Bob's.
You will.
We definitely will come by.
Cool. Okay.
We're heading. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
We want to thank Pam Minick for hanging with us on NFR Extra. Want to experience more of the NFR? Then visit nfrexperience.com. And we invite you to subscribe to NFR Extra on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or wherever you're listening right now. If you like what you've been hearing on NFR Extra, we would love it if you gave us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe. NFR Extra.
All dirt.
All rodeo.
All year.
Gotta make it out to Vegas, where the big boys roam, with the rovers and the racers and the bulls and the broncs, and the ladies in the skin-tight wranglers and the cowboy hat.